Cool. Just starting the stream up, waiting for people to show up. I'll give them a few minutes. It's not quite 4 yet. Thanks, Gradiente, for the follow. I think there was some confusion about this being primarily in Discord or something. I don't think it was super obvious it was going to be on Twitch. Oh yeah, that probably makes sense. I've done stuff like this a couple times, and I always just do it in Twitch. I can say I knew the You knew it? Am I going somewhere? Of the it's classic for me, you know. I've played Horde for most of my time in WoW, but the times that I've been Alliance, which my very first character in Vanilla was Alliance, this was the only auction house back then, and so this is it's homey for me. It's where it all began for me back in the day. Thanks for the follows, guys. Appreciate it. I'll give people a few more minutes. I know this is slated for an hour, but I plan on...
Hi. Hi. Hi.
Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, look at all the people. I have coffee, might be able to go for a full 30 minutes before needing a refill. Hey, that works. I've got my caffeine intake.
Hi.
Hey, Sean. We got Alina, Cool. Hello, Bolt, Damned, all the peeps.
Hi.
I think they're trying to clear up a little bit of confusion about it being in Discord versus Twitch right now. Because this way I only have to look at one chat window instead of multiple, because I'm sure there's going to be other people that follow my Twitch channel that might show up. So I'm just going to give them a few minutes. Because Muffin has been Horde for about 90% of the time he's played World of Warcraft. It's not just that. It's on the arm too. See if I can get it. It's a tattoo as well. Yeah, Horde Red. Double agent. That's right. I got red and I got the muffin tattoo as well, like my guy from Discord on my other arm. I don't joke about the muffin. It's serious business, guys. It's serious business. All right, I'm gonna put one more message in guild and then we'll get started. No weird saying my tune on Twitch. Means blue. I've had blue. I've had green. I've had red once before. I did purple last year for TwitchCon. I've had silver, and then I went back to red, and I've had red the last couple times that I've had it done. So red's my favorite color by far. So ever since I was a kid. Nothing to do with Horde. It's just always been my favorite color. Yeah, silver was pretty cool. It faded really fast though, and then it made me just look like I had a hair full of weirdly colored gray hair. I probably won't do silver again, but I might do like orange or maybe some kind of rainbow effect or something like that. Mhm. Hey, Elithorn, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. All right, let's talk some TradeSkillMaster then. So there are two very, very, very basic elements of TradeSkillMaster that if you can understand these two like basic things, you can do or at least teach yourself pretty much almost anything in TradeSkillMaster. A lot of the times the hang up that people have with TSM is just like, what do I do? What's the first step? Because it's admittedly an incredibly powerful, incredibly complex add-on, but that doesn't need to mean that it's difficult. It's just a lot of people get option fatigue when they look at it, because it's meant to be a powerful tool, right? And so the two things are are groups and operations. So you can think of groups like folders on your computer. So a folder on your computer can have files in it. It can
Hi.
also have other folders in it, right? Hey, Leah. So groups are essentially like folders on your computer. Groups can have files, which are like items in the game, or other groups can be inside them. So you could have a group for trade skill materials, and then a group inside that for leathers, or for ores, or for whatever. You could have a consumables group, and then inside that group, you could have a group for food and a group for potions and things like that. So it's just a way of organizing and separating your items into logical groups, kind of thing. Or like for instance, my personal setup is I have things that are grouped together by kind of like material type, or stuff that's like posted similarly on the auction house, like things that I like. Potions I post in certain stack sizes, so I have potions kind of all grouped together and things like that. So but that's it. That's all groups are. Groups are just a way of organizing items into like logical groupings. So uh, for example, today I have a few different items in my bags here. I have some ore, I have some cloth, I have a raid BOE, and then I have a couple greens that I just snagged off the auction house to basically represent trade, like transmog, like if you're going to be the person that sells transmog items. So let's start with just creating some groups, and we won't worry about like shopping or listing or anything like that yet. We're just going to create some groups first. So I can create a group here. If you go here, the base group, if you read this, it says by default, this group houses all items that aren't in an assigned group. So if you just wanted to, you could set nothing up and use the basic default setup and probably make a little bit of gold. But that's not the point of today, is it? So hey, thanks for the follow, Nap. So I clicked on this and I clicked the little plus sign here to create this new group. I'm going to give it a name. Let's call it materials. And let's say I'm going to have a group for cloths and a group for ores, right? So I can select my materials group here, and I can add another new group. See how it creates it like a subgroup, like a kind of like a subfolder, or what's called a tree structure, if you're familiar with like Windows Explorer or whatever the Mac equivalent is. So I'll name it cloths, and then I can select materials again and create another one, and we'll call this ores. So again, the goal of groups is to have items in a specific location, and then instead of telling TSM how to post every single item or what to do with every single item individually, I can tell TSM what to do with a group of items, which then greatly simplifies. Like if I want to post all cloths in a similar way, I can do things to the cloth group and anything in it will be affected by that. So even other groups kind of things. So we'll get to that in a second. But right now we're just setting up where our items are. So if I click my cloths group, I can come over here and I can select my linen, and I just say add it to the group. So you can see that my Tide Spray linen is now on the grouped items side and is no longer over here on the ungrouped items side. That means that anything I do to this cloths group will affect my linen over here and any other cloths that I decide to add to that group. Items can only be in one group, because if an item was in multiple groups and you told told TSM to do something to both of those groups, TSM wouldn't know like which one had priority or anything like that. So we're going to do the same with ores here. So I'm just going to add my ore to a group. And then a lot of times people are confused by greens that, or anything that you would sell for transmog, technically. not just greens, but that have this uh, suffix on them, like of the Firelash or of the Aurora, or if you're like farming old raids, um, if you got like a BUE that Warforged or something like that, but just for the sake of gear that you're going to sell for transmog, right? So TradeSkillMaster has this concept of the full item, which is trackers, wrist guards of the quick blade, or the base item, which is just trackers, wrist guards, which is where it omits any of the suffixes or anything like that. So what we'll do here, and I'll show you how this works, is we'll create a group for transmog, and we'll rename it here. So this is the group where I'm going to put all my items that I want to sell for transmog in it, right? So right now, if I add this item to my group, you can see this right here. It's only going to post this type, this of the Firelash, and only undercut other of the Firelash items, which is not what you want for transmog, because there's potentially hundreds of combinations for these items. Even of the Firelash has like several different versions for the different stat ranges on it, right? That's not what we want. So let's remove it from our group. And then TSM has this option right here called ignore item variations question mark. So this basically strips all of the variant information off of an item. That includes suffixes. That includes things like tertiary stats like speed, etc. It strips socket information and also strips forged status. So if it's like Warforged or Titan Forged, like BOEs can be, it strips all of that from an item, and so you're left with just the base item. So if you watch when I check this, it removes all of the variant. And if you even look at this raid BOE, say it's a raid finder BOE, but if I check this box, it just becomes the base 350 item level, which I don't think actually exists in the game, but and you can see all the suffixes got stripped off these items. So now if I select these 3 items, because these are my transmog examples, and I add them, their base versions got added to the group. And if you're ever curious if you have a base item in a group properly, if you look at the tooltip for, let's see, yeah, if you look at the tooltip for an item, if right under TradeSkillMaster info, it says group, and then in parentheses it has base item, kind of about halfway down the tooltip there. It tells you that you have that item grouped as its base item. So like that's what we want, so we know it's worked. And then let's say, lastly, we want to sell this raid BOE. Well, when you're selling raid BOEs, you don't want to undercut any version. You want to undercut that exact version. This doesn't always play out super well because of limitations of World of Warcraft. For example, a raid finder BOE that Titan forges up to the point of being like the eye level of a basic heroic BOE. There's no way in the game for us to be aware of how the variant pieces on an item equate to item level. So there's no way for us to take a raid finder like 430 and a heroic 430 or a normal 430 and like say that those are the same item, even though they are visually and in practice the same thing. So sometimes there's some shenanigans you might have to do, but for the most part, you just want to undercut the same item. Is just kind of the basic way of thinking about it. So we can make a new group and we'll call it raid BOEs. And we just want to make sure this is unchecked because we don't want to remove the variant stuff. And then we add it to the group. So now we have our groups. So now our items are logically set up, for example. So we got our cloth, our ore, our BOEs, and our transmog items. Right. So now we need to tell TradeSkillMaster what to do with these items. Like, okay, you group them. Like, do you want to shop for them? Do you want to post them? Like, what's the deal, right? So let's say I have some cloth and I want to sell some cloth items in this group and I want to sell them, right? So I select my cloth group and I go over to group operations. And the term operations basically means instructions on instructions that are applied to a group, and they can be anything. So there is auction operations, which tells TradeSkillMaster how to post an item. There's shopping operations for telling TradeSkillMaster how to search and uh, like a price cutoff for if you're like looking to buy something that's cheap to flip it for higher prices. There's more advanced operations for like managing your bank and warehousing and things like that. There's mailing operations. So something that I do very commonly is set up a mailing operations for basically all the items, all materials in the game kind of thing. And then when I'm leveling an alt, I can just one click at the mailbox, just ship everything to my auction house alt, like without even thinking about it. And so that ends up being pretty handy. But for the most part, we're just going to stick to a couple very quick examples of auctioning and shopping. So let's make an auction operation to try and list this cloth that I have in my bag. So we go to group operations, and you can see there's a default auction operation that TradeSkillMaster ships with, but we want to make our own. So we're going to override the default because it's inheriting the default from this base group, because materials is technically this subgroup here. So we want to override it where it doesn't look like it has any operation. And we're going to click create new operation. So we're going to call this cloth operation. So we'll come back to this tab in a second, but most of the meat and potatoes of what you want to do in an auction operation are on the posting tab right here. So the set auction operation is pretty self-explanatory. Do you want to list for 12, 24, or 48 hours? So I usually list for 48 hours, so we'll go with that. Post cap. How many of an item do you want to post? How many stacks of an item do you want to post? So this is basically if you have a large stack, but maybe the economy is volatile, so you only want to post a little bit at a time. For the sake of example here, we'll just say 100 stacks. And so then the next option is, how many do I want in a stack? Well, it's pretty common to like go to a website like Wowhead or WowDB or something and look up the stack size of a particular material and like what stack size is used in a recipe. Like maybe there's linen bracers that use 10 cloth or something like that. For the ease of this example, I'm just going to use some generic stack sizes, but that's something to look into. So I'm going to say I want to post stacks of 20. Allow partial stack. Let's say instead of the 400 that I have in my bag, my camera's all screwed up. Instead of the 400 I have in my bag, let's say I have like 390. And if I post stacks in 20, there's going to be this like stack of 10 that's left over. Well, allow partial stacks means post in my stack size all the way up until you can't anymore, and then anything that's left, post it in whatever stack size is left. So a partial stack. That's what that means. So if you want to use that, you can. If you want to prevent yourself from posting all, a lot of times if I have a character that I also play and I don't want to post like my raid flasks or something like that, I can use this to prevent, like, always keep an X amount of something on my character. And then this is a slightly more advanced option here. Don't post after this many expires. So this can be useful for transmog, where if I've posted transmog 20 times and it hasn't sold yet, or 40 or 50 or whatever, then it'll tell me in chat when I try to post it that it's exceeded max expires, and then I could just go vendor it, because obviously it's not worth my time anymore to try and sell. So The price settings here are set bid as a percentage of buyout. So I usually leave this as a default. I'm of the camp that there's really no point in undercutting by anything more than a copper. A lot of people will change this. I personally don't. But this just makes your bid a percentage of the buyout and then how much you actually want to undercut by. So this makes my bid and my buyout the same thing. Sometimes people that are posting really expensive items where if they want somebody to potentially bid and just wait the item out but still make a profit, they'll play with this on really high-end items, but it's not something I ever mess with. So, and then here is basically what we tell TradeSkillMaster to post the cloth at in our cloth operation here. And these are just defaults. So you can change these three things. So we have minimum price, which is the lowest you want to price an item at, period. Do not go below this value. The maximum price is just the opposite of that. Don't go above this price ever. So like maybe you're posting a rare item and some knucklehead has some version of the item posted at 5 million gold, but it's only worth like 20,000. You're not going to sell that item. If you undercut the knucklehead, you want to post for a logical price that people are actually going to be willing to pay or something like that. So that's maximum price. And then normal price is what do I want to post this item at if there's no competition on the auction house? So if there's nothing that I'm trying to undercut, I can't find, TradeSkillMaster can't find anything to undercut, what do I want to post this item at? So these defaults can kind of look kind of complicated, but if you want to understand these, we can break it down. So let's break it down. So this first part in here, this part I highlighted is I take the average of the crafting cost of an item, if one exists, the market value of an item, and the region market value of an item. And the region is basically all of US or all of EU. And I take the average of that and take 25% of it. And then that is kind of temporarily stored there. And then I also take 150% or 1.5 times the gold that I would make selling the item to a vendor. So I have these two values. I have this 25% of the average or 150% of the vendor. And this max will take the highest of the two. It'll take the max value of this one or this one. And that will be my minimum price. So that's the default, and that's kind of complicated. So let's say my max price for my minimum price for this Tide Spray linen. We're just going to do something simple like 110% DB market. And DB market is our market value, just the plain old market value. And if you want to know what the names of these things are, I believe it's it's been like
Hi.
it's TSM sources, I believe. Yes. So if you let's see if I can how do I undock my chat here? There we go. That works. So if you type TSM sources, it tells you all the different kind of predefined things that you can use. So auction DB, this is the auction data that you get from us, and you can see DB market is listed right here. This is our pretty standard market value. So let's just assume that I only bought items that were below market value. So like there was a bunch of items posted cheap, and I only want to post this is my minimum. I don't want to post anything. This guarantees me if I post an item and it sells, I make at least a little bit of profit. And let's say our max, let's say our max is like 400% DB market, and like that's the high end of what I want to post. And let's say if there's no competition, I'll post it at double the market value, 200% market value. Then I make like a good chunk of profit potentially. This maximum price will guard me against like, oh man, there's like some stupid spike in the market. Like what is going on? So it'll still try to undercut above what my normal price would be up to the 400% mark if it wants to. So did anybody have any like, and if anybody has any questions or whatever, throw them out. I'm more than welcome to like sidestep and answer some questions if you have them. So also, if you look where we posted the stack size to 20, I said we were going to jump back to this other tab here real quick. I have this set to post in stacks of 20. If I go over to the details and I say match stack size, and I turn this on, this will only undercut other stacks of 20, which may not necessarily be the cheapest on the auction house. So this is a way of what's called overcutting. So you're not undercutting the cheapest, you're overcutting the cheapest by only undercutting the specific stack size. So this is how I make the majority of my gold is I buy lots of stuff really cheap. I spent a good deal of time setting up all of these operations that I have to undercut specific stack sizes. I do the research on Wowhead, look up the stack sizes of what various materials are used in items, and set up a bunch of different things like that. How can I set a proc good in TSM? If I do it manually in a spreadsheet, I get other number than with TSM. I will answer that once I'm done showing the basics of operations, because that goes into crafting, which is not something that I was really going to go dive into because it's a big ball of wax. But I will answer that here in a little bit. WoW's interactions with add-ons and professions is super shitty, and there's not an easy way to like set like detect procs and things like that. So we have to kind of hack around it essentially. So let's go ahead and set up the OR operation just the exact same way. So we override, create new operation, OR operation, name it something. We're gonna also match stack size on this. Stacks of 20, and again we'll say 100% DB market. When you type in, also when you type in boxes like this, make sure you hit enter. So if I don't hit enter and I just click out of it, it doesn't save what I typed there, and a lot of people get hung up on that. So 400% DB market, 200% DB market. So we set it up identical to the other one. All right. I was just using 400% as an example, Sean. So 400% is my maximum. So I don't want to post it higher than 400% of the market value, because if somebody like buys all the items of something and then tries to spike the market, I don't want to like potentially cost myself sales by posting an item stupid expensive. I just pulled 400% out of thin air just to have an example of something that you could use as a maximum price. You could make it whatever you wanted. It should be higher than or equal to your normal price though. Cool. Yeah, no problem. All right, so we'll skip reviews for now. We'll go to transmog, because transmog I set up a little bit differently. So it's can be a little bit more simple than dealing with stuff that has stack sizes. So let's go to auction operation. We're going to override, and we're going to create a new operation. Call it transmog operation. And so if I have transmog that I've gone out and farmed, my minimum price is like, I just want to make more than what I would make selling it to a vendor, essentially. So this is mostly irrelevant up here for transmog because unless you have a whole bunch of the same item, you really don't need to change this because I don't have more than like one or two of a transmog item if I'm doing transmog. So I usually don't have to edit any of these unless you want to use this the max expires. The don't stop posting it after it's expired X number of times mentioned earlier. So let's say my minimum price is 110% of the vendor sell. So this means I don't want to post it lower than 110% of what I would make vendoring the item. Simple. Now for your maximum price and your normal price, since transmog items take a long time to sell, the your realm specific DB market or the realm specific market value can kind of be stale, or if only one sold in the last couple weeks or if only one item was posted, that one item is going to recommend like it's not going to recommend represent the market value, which is not necessarily true. So for transmog, it's usually a smart thing to do to use the region price. So you use all of the US data instead of your realm specific data. And the way we do that, so let's say our maximum price is 400% of the DB region market. I typoed it, DB region market average. So the DB region market average is an average of the market values across all of the US realms or EU realms if you're on EU. And then let's just say that the normal is 200% DB region market average. Oh, and something that I didn't mention a minute ago is this option right here. So if this item is posted like stupid high above this price, it's going to default to posting at your normal price instead. So when above maximum, post at normal price, and you can change this to whatever you want. You can change it to post at your maximum price or don't post at all. So this is a very, very, very simplistic setup for transmog. You can do more advanced things, but you don't necessarily need to unless you really want to dive into the add-on more. And so like the big point that I'm trying to stress is like if you just understand a couple simple operations and how to set up groups, which is just organizing your items, you can use like the vast majority of the functionality in TradeSkillMaster really, really easily. You don't have to touch every single option and every single detail unless you really want to get serious about gold making or something like that. So I may be getting ahead. Oh, oh, my bad. My auto moderator doesn't like it when you post links. So Sean got moderated. I forgot what the command is to allow you. What were you asking? Type your question again without the link. When does it start undercutting other auctions? So it just does that automatically, Sean. So it will undercut everything until the lowest goes below your minimum price, and then it just won't post. So it says when below minimum, don't post items. So it's gonna undercut until it can't undercut anymore, essentially. And I'll show you what actually posting these looks like here in just a second. And I'm not going to set up an operation for this BOE, but I just had the BOE to show you the differences in transmog groups versus BOE groups using this ignore item variations option that I showed earlier. Just to avoid confusion, you don't post an item and then after you post, it doesn't continuously undercut. Correct, Bolt. So TSM is smart enough to know who you are. And I believe because of it actually knows that because of WoW knows that. And even if you were trying to like do auction stuff on multiple alts, WoW itself knows who your alts are, and it won't undercut you or your alts on the same realm. So it will just post at the same price. If you're not over the this right here, the post cap. So if you haven't violated your post cap and the number of stacks to post, like say you still have some wiggle room there, and I go to post more and I'm still the lowest, it will just post at the same price. It won't undercut yourself. Mm-hmm. So, but now I basically have auction operations set up for cloth or MI transmog. So if I go to the auction house, this is what the auction house window looks like now. So let's say today I'm gonna go post my cloth, right? I could post everything if I wanted to and just select it all. But let's say today I'm just gonna post my cloth. And if we remember, we told it to match stack size, so it's only undercut other stacks of 20. And hopefully this stuff on the auction house is cheap enough to undercut. And my lowest price is 110% DB market. So let's see if it finds anything to undercut. So I open the auction house, I go to the auctioning tab, I select cloth, and I click run post scan. So now it's gathering all the information it needs from the auction house, and it's scanning. Cloth usually has tons of pages of items because it's so common drop when people are leveling, so that takes a second. Cool. So this tells me that Cheza here, via my cloth operation, is the cheapest person on the auction house that's selling stacks of 20. This is what my buyout is going to be per cloth, and I'm successfully undercutting the competition. You can see where I set see where it's at posting 1 of 20. That's because I set my post cap to 20 stacks of 20. So I can just click post here, and if I just click post, each stack requires a quote unquote hardware event, so you have to physically click. So you can just spam click this button, and it'll queue up all your hardware events. And see, it posted all of my cloth. You can see where it says auction created in my chat log here. And then I can go look at my auctions, and you're going to see all my other crap that I have posted. And there's all the cloth that we just posted, only undercutting other stacks of 20. You see where it specifically created stacks of 20. This was the buyout. I don't have any more cloth in my bag. Done. Cloth posted, items posted. If I had tons of items in that group, it would have posted all of them, all like that at the same time. TSM has this macro that you can create. So this is in settings. Oh my god, macros. So settings, macros, and so instead of spam clicking that button, you can bind the macro. You can have TSM create a macro and bind it to like your scroll wheel. And then if I hold control, where I have it set to the control, and it goes both mouse wheel up and down, I can just hold control and spin my mouse wheel really fast, and it simulates clicking that button, and it works the same way. And then if you have one of those cool mice that like your mouse wheel like free spins, you can just go hold control and just zing the mouse wheel, and it just goes, and then you just wait for the posting to finish. If you have a few hundred items, it'll take like a good 10-15 seconds to finish posting all the items, but that little bar at the bottom that we saw a minute ago. And so we can do the same thing. Now let's say we're going to post our transmog now. Let's see how this does. Cool. So it's got my transmog operation, and you can see it's only undercutting the generic versions of these items because that's what it sees here. And this is, if you look at the vendor sell price is only 53 silver. So my minimum price was 110% of the vendor sell. So clearly this is above my minimum price on all three of these items. Again, I just click the post button a few times, and it posts all those items for you. Mm-hmm. So that's all there is to posting items. You group the items how you want, what makes sense to you and your brain, and you create an auction operation for that group with your minimum price. What's the lowest I want to pay? What's the minimum I want to post at? What's the minimum profit that I want to make? The maximum price, like I want to guard against somebody trying to spike the market. And then the normal price is if there's no competition, what do I want to post this item at? Once you decide that for an item or a group of items like cloth or ore or whatever, you're absolutely done. You've just created an auction operation that will sell cloth or ores or whatever material for you. You could even dump all your materials into one group and just give it a generic operation to sell stacks of 20, and it would post everything dynamically for you. This the TSM operations by themselves, unless you for some reason tell it to, has no concept of what the item that you're going to post is. So if I had like 5 different kinds of cloth in that group, this DB market value would be dynamically adjusted as it tries to post each type of item. TSM does all of that work for you behind the scenes, kind of thing. So if I posted the ore just a second, like I made that other operation for the ore, it would work the exact same way. But we've only got about 17 minutes, so I want to show a shopping operation real quick. So let's say I'm gonna corner the market on Tide Spray Linen, and I want to like buy anything that's cheap. Let's say I want to buy anything below 70% market value. I'm going to clean the auction house out of anything that's posted below 70%. So I'm going to go to click my cloth group again, kind of like we did before, go to group operations, and this time I'm going to go to shopping. I'm going to override, create new operation. We'll call it cloth shopping. So what is the maximum amount I want to pay for an item? So I can say 70% DB market. I don't care about auctions that are above max price, so I'm going to hide them. Neat stacks shows you, I believe it's only stacks of like 20 or like the max stack size of 200. I think neat stacks specifically is important if your goal is to buy ore to prospect, because it will only show multiples of 5. Stacks that are multiples of 5. For cloth, I don't care. What's the maximum number of cloth I want to buy? Well, let's say I want to buy as much as I can, but I don't want to go overboard. So let's say I only want to buy 400 cloth. If you're trying to restock up to, actually I have 400 on the auction house, so that won't work. Let's say I want to restock up to 1,000. It knows that I already have 400 on the auction house, so it's not going to make me buy 1,000. This is my restock quantity, not purchase quantity, right? So I'm restocking up to 1,000 for whatever my intended use is, right? And then I can tell it sources to include. I can include my guild bank if I have one, my bank, my auctions. So I'm going to tell it to include auctions. I can have it include other alts if I want to. Like if you store all your cloth on an alt for some reason, like you can tell it where to look or not to look anywhere at all. And that's it. That's all there is to setting up a shopping operation. I've told it what my maximum price that I'm willing to pay is and how many I want to restock up to. That's all you really need to do. The rest of it is kind of just extra features that are nice, but like when you're shopping for an item, what are the 2 things that you need? You need the max price and how many do I want to buy, right? That's it. So now that we've created that, we can go back to the auction house. I'm going to go to the shopping tab. I'm going to click cloth, and I'm going to run my shopping scan. And there, of course, there's none posted below 70%. So let's change that to something higher just so we can see what that looks like. So let's change it to 99%. So we'll go open the auction house back up, go to shopping, click cloth, run shopping scan. And it should find stuff. So you can see that this is posted at various percents here. And if I just select the first one and I click buyout, and I just spam buyout, and I just bought all of those items. You can see my chat log here. So I just bought all the cloth below 99%, essentially. And then I can turn around and relist it. I can use it for profession leveling. I can do whatever I want with it. So that's shopping and auctioning in a nutshell for TradeSkillMaster. So did anybody have any quick and easy questions or anything? We got about 10 minutes left. I mean, I plan on sticking around afterwards because there's probably a couple advanced questions like Stamin's question earlier about crafting stuff with procs that I'll answer here in a little bit. But if anybody had any other basic questions about TradeSkillMaster, I'm more than happy to answer. And if you want just a sneak peek at my personal profile, this is what my profile looks like. So I have cloth, and then I actually have groups of varying sizes, mats for food, and then I have operations for posting in all kinds of different sizes. See how many operations I have. I don't joke around with it. So you can go as overboard as you want to. You can go as crazy and as overboard as you want to, but that's kind of the gist. Stamens, are you still around? I'll try and answer your Muffin. Do you have a paste band I could look at? I do not. I'm kind of a firm believer in a TradeSkillMaster setup is really something that you should personalize, because a person's TradeSkillMaster setup is not necessarily going to be useful like for everybody. Like my setup, even if we're on the same realm, my setup is not going to be used for you because I have certain times of day that I post. I have certain times that I do things, certain days of the week that I do things, and if you even modified one of those little like variables in like the way you post and when you post, my profile could completely cost you thousands of gold. Like if you're not using it the exact same way I do. So like I want to give people the tools to make their own profiles versus just sharing profiles publicly. There is no cookie cutter. You can copy a good group, yeah. Predefined groups, like here's all of the materials for BFA. Go set up your operations. That's a very good point, Bolt. Those exist. I believe there's people that have posted those to Reddit. I think there's a couple on the TradeSkillMaster website. Those are definitely nice, but exactly, you definitely want your own operations to tailor your own posting style for sure. With respect to crafting, how do you set up prices for vendor items? That's a very good question, Gradiante. So, did I switch back to my test? All right. So, do I have anything that uses a vendor item? Let's see. Something I can. So this is what TSM crafting looks like. Yeah. I don't think I have anything that uses a I think I can probably still do it. Yeah, I haven't done any profession crap on this character at all. I've just basically leveled it to 100. I still have heirlooms equipped. I basically leveled to 120 and then didn't do anything with it. The way you do that is, let's see, what is the what's the name of the current one? The, what's the red one, the current one that we use in the current BOP item, one of the current BOP items. What are they called? Yeah, Expulsum. That's what I was thinking of. Um, I haven't had to do that in forever, and I know it's here, and I've totally you're gonna like make me all embarrassed now because I can't remember where I set that crafting. Uh, t- 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 oh, actually, is it in here? Ah, it's in the actual. I'm thinking it was in the settings. It's in the actual like crafting window now. That's where we moved it to. So you open up your profession, you go to crafting reports, and you go to materials, and you and actually it's funny because I have one set up for Expulsum already. So if I wanted to give Expulsum a value, I could just say I'm going to value Expulsum at 100 gold. So now whenever Expulsum is in a recipe, it's going to use it as it's going to set it at 100 gold per Expulsum. If you don't want Expulsum to have any value at all, you could just set it to something like 1 copper if you wanted to. But that's how you do that. I have a question about the filter group items lists based on following price source in setting. What are your thoughts on that setting? Where was that setting at, Nat? Oh, oh, this right here. All right, cool. Let me go back to my profile. Something a group that has a lot of items in it. All right, so this is a group that has a whole lot of items in it, right? This filter right here, it can take more than just names of items. So if I want to filter by like battle potions or the word battle, I can do that. But if I want to filter by, let's say I want to see items that are worth between 100 gold and 500 gold, I type slash 100 gold slash 500 gold, and then it filters items based on that setting that are only worth that amount of gold. So this is really super useful if you have like a group with 1,000 plus transmog items in it, and you want to filter those transmog items into ones that are like worth between 10 and 500 gold, and 500 gold and 10,000 gold, and then like 10,000 gold and 50,000 gold, and you want to like make logical like transmog groups so that you could maybe like be willing to undercut by a little bit more or post them at a little bit higher and like maybe customize your operations by price range. So like it's used for easily filtering groups. So that's what that setting is. Gradiente, did that answer your question, Expulsum, on how to set that up? And is Stamens, are you still around? I'll answer your question if you're still around. Anybody else have any other questions? Anything that I can show you an example of really quickly? kind of following on my own TSN, so I'm trying to make sure there are prices for my cooking recipes. Sure. So I can just show you the one that I use for mailing really easily. Operations. So in the groups, this base group is basically every item in the game, and any groups that you create are subgroups of the base group. So if I make a mailing operation and apply it to the base group, it will send all items to my auction house alt that are BOE or sellable or whatever. So my mailing operation is I didn't even bother giving it a name. That's funny. But basically I just put in the name of my auction house character and uh, I applied that operation to right here. Oh, actually no, I didn't apply it to the base group. I applied it to just the items that I'm selling. So my mailing operation is this. I didn't even bother giving it a name, so it still says new operation. But that's all there is to it. You just give it a name of the character, and if you want to customize like how many items you send and things like that, you can. But that's all you need to do. And then when you're at the mailbox, you just open up the mailbox and you go to groups. You select it'll only show groups here that have mailing operations. So you select that group and you just click mail selected groups and you're done. That's it. And it'll keep mailing and mailing and mailing until it exhausts anything in your bags. On HiPop servers, how often should we worry about running cancel scans to repost or undercut items? I don't cancel scan. I don't ever cancel scan. I think it takes too much time. I think especially with the increased costs that Blizzard has placed on auction deposits, I don't want the increased rate of posting to eat into my profits. The only times that I would do cancel scans is in the very, very, very early days of a patch when you're trying to adjust to a rapidly changing market. But that's it. I personally don't like cancel scans. I don't make use of them really at all. I just let my auctions expire and repost them every couple days. Because to me, they sell eventually.
Hi.
I'm not worried about when my gold comes in. I'm not in some super emergency to have millions of gold. Like, I just wait for them to sell and they sell eventually. Hey, Miser, what's up, dude? What's up, friend? Hey, thanks for the host. Cool. Any other simple TradeSkillMaster questions? I'm more than happy to answer. I have raid in an hour, but I've got time to answer. Yeah, it has been a while. I moved across the country, and I haven't really gotten back into the habit of streaming, but I really should. I'll probably hop off for a little bit and restart my stream and stream tanking heroic Eternal Palace tonight. So sniping is a whole other beast entirely, Sean. And honestly, it probably deserves its own boot camp. And maybe I'll just set up. I'll talk to Leah. Maybe I'll set up another one for another weekend, or maybe I'll just do an ad hoc one or something on my own for people that are curious about how to do sniping. Because there's a lot there. It's essentially set up very similar to the way the shopping operations are set up, where you give it a max price. But there's some more fancy shenanigans that you can do with sniping to like adjust the amount you're willing to pay for an item based on how high the market value is. So what your potential return might be if you were to like post to buy it and resell the item. I believe see, this is my sniping operation. It's crazy. This is something that one of the TradeSkillMaster users who posts a lot on Reddit and Twitter and things like that, who is infinitely smarter than me. He's a power user who created this beast of an operation kind of thing for sniping that does a really, really good job. it kind of dynamically adjusts what you're willing to pay based on how expensive the item is. So it's pretty nice. But I'll definitely try and maybe have another boot camp for sniping specifically that day, some other day. So is there any other simple questions or any other quick settings anybody has a question about, or any other examples that I can show anybody? All right, cool. Well, if let's see, nope. Have a good raid tonight, mate. Thanks for that. Awesome. You as well. Have a good night, Nap. And if nobody else has anything, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. I'm gonna eat a little bit of dinner before raid tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming by. All of my Eternal Kingdom peeps and all of my other TradeSkillMaster fans and whatnot. And Sean, and if you ever want to hit me up, Sean, and you have got other
Hi.
questions, my Twitter is on my Twitch page. So
Hi.
if you go like hit up my Twitter and ask me questions, you can hit up the TradeSkillMaster Twitter as well. Gumdrops is really really good. There's also a WoW Economy Discord that has just like tens of thousands of people in it. It's crazy huge, crazy popular. So there's that. There's lots of cool resources out there. Like this is the big point that I really want to hammer across is TradeSkillMaster on the surface looks incredibly complicated, but there's just a couple little simple things. If you understand groups and you understand operations, like even just an auction operation, you can gather mats and then go sell them really super easily and guarantee yourself some profits and stuff like that. It's not this complicated beast that it first appears to be. So, uh, and you are all quite welcome for your time. I'm definitely going to try and stream more often. These seem to be pretty interesting for people, so maybe I'll do some like little, more like kind of laser focused TradeSkillMaster sessions on the future. Um, Gumdrops, the guy that kind of does uh, our user outreach and runs our Twitter and things like that. He posts kind of a monthly or biweekly article on Wowhead about the goings on in the World of Warcraft economy. So be sure to check those out. Those get posted on Wowhead's newsfeed, as well as the his Twitter and things like that. So be sure to check him out. But until then, I wish you all a good evening. I'll see some of you all around probably later tonight. And yeah, no problem, Sean. And hit me up if you have other questions. I'm glad to help anybody work. I'll hop on a stream and help anybody through anything if I have the time. So I will see you all later. Have a good night.